Hi, and welcome to the Punk CX podcast. My name is Adrian Swinsko, and I'm an advisor, best-selling author, speaker, and general explorer when it comes to customer and employee experience. I'm really interested in figuring out what it takes to build organizations that produce better outcomes for both customers and employees. So with that in mind, I seek out and interview CEOs, entrepreneurs, business and tech leaders, authors and academics to uncover some clues about what it takes to build such an organization. Now, some of you may know the podcast as the Rare Business Podcast, but I decided to rename and rebrand the podcast recently. This is for a number of reasons. First one was to mirror the title of my book, Punk CX, which was published in June 2019. Two, because I'm a fan of punk music. And three, it's just more fun, right? Anyway, if this is your first time listening to one of these interviews, then hello and welcome. And please do dive into the archives at adrianswinsco.com, as I've now completed over 300 of these interviews in the last few years. If this is not your first time listening, then welcome back and thank you. Anyway, that's enough from me right now. Let's get into the interview. So welcome to the next edition of the Punk CX podcast. With me today, I have Scott Addi, who is the VP of Marketing for EMEA for Sugar CRM. Hey, Scott, how are you doing?
I'm very well, Adrian. Thank you. And thanks for inviting me on to your wonderful podcast.
Thanks very much. So, Scott, for the benefit of our listeners and also the folks that can read the highlights, the write-up that we do, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and also the work that you do?
Definitely. Well, as you rightly say, I look after marketing, European marketing for Sugar CRM. Personally, myself, I have been in marketing for way too long and done nothing else. I'm one of the rare marketeers that have got a marketing degree and has done nothing else since graduating. So been in the business-to-business technology marketing space for years. And from a Sugar CRM point of view, I think the clue there is in the name. So, we are a CRM technology company, and our mission, if you like, is to try and help sales and marketing and customer service teams work closer together using technology to achieve something that we define as high definition customer experience. And that is basically, we try and enable our customers to have the sharpest, clearest view of their customers and their prospects that they can possibly get through the technology platform that we supply. So that's in a nutshell what we're trying to do.
Perfect. Thank you. And I also going to like the. I think you still use part of your messaging or tagline is the idea that let the platform do the work or something, which I think is.
We do.
It's fascinating. It's fascinating how many platforms don't seem to get in the way and don't let people do the work. But I think like holding yourself to account by saying let the platform do the work is kind of is putting yourself out there, I guess, which is great.
Well, yes, I think that whole thing, and we may be digressing slightly, but you've asked me the question.
Hey, it's my podcast. I can do with it what the heck I want, really.
Excellent. So, we conducted a bit of research over a year or so ago now, that into global. Well, we asked lots of questions around what global sales leaders were thinking about the technology that they used, bits and pieces like that, and it was very clear that there are an awful lot of people, and we're talking the vast majority of sales leaders out there globally, and we're not just talking America or UK or this was a global survey, thousands of people that were fed up with the technology they're using, and the amount of time they and their teams were spending manually inputting data and manually changing this, that, and the other. And it just, for us at Sugar, it was like, it can't be right. I mean, it's just, technology is meant to be there to enable and to help and to do
Mhm.
the heavy lifting. So, that's one of the reasons why we go to market with that kind of mantra, that kind of manifesto almost,
Mhm.
you know, you guys are paid to do a job, to look after customers and look after, and generate business, not to be technical admins.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's kind of fair. I mean, and it's sort of, I mean, it's not same sort of thing, but we're talking about things that we were talking recently on a webinar about things that get in the way of doing, producing those kind of good outcomes, that better customer experience and so on and so forth. Because we did a webinar where we were exploring kind of this idea that sales and marketing teams are like, are they aligned or are they still misaligned? And the idea that we've been talking about it for kind of over kind of 20 years, and people, the idea that siloed behavior or siloed kind of siloed stuff in kind of organizations is the things that get in the way of producing a good kind of customer experience. I mean, like, but is that still really a problem? I mean, is that what are you finding? I mean, because it's like we seem to be talking and talking and talking about it.
Yep. Yep.
But then nothing happens.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. We have, as an industry, we have been talking about specifically, sales and marketing working closer together and aligning properly for seems decades, doesn't it? It seems like we've been talking about it forever. And again, when we talk to sales and marketing leaders, the resounding answer to that question is, yep, it's still a problem, still a massive problem. All over the place, and it's a bit of a head scratcher.
I mean, didn't you do some research recently? Kind of just is almost a bit to highlight some of this. Was it a quick pulse survey you did, and to kind of show kind of like the extent of the kind of the problem? I mean, that's something you told me about on the webinar. I mean, I wonder if you could maybe just tell us quickly about that and what you found out, because that sort of shines a light on, I guess, the chasm.
Yeah, no,
let's not kind of shy away from it. It is like a bit of a chasm that's there. So tell me about that if you can.
Of course, yeah. No, and I think a chasm is a great way of describing it, because the results that we uncovered in our pulse survey recently, and this was just a month or so ago, actually, that we surveyed a number of sales and marketing leaders. We asked them just some very short, pointed questions around how they thought they were aligned with their counterparts.
Mm-hmm.
And, only 1 in 3 of the sales marketing leaders we spoke to, that's 33%, thought their respective teams were well aligned. And so, we've been talking about it for 20 years. We've, talk, but doesn't seem like much has been done. If only 1 in 3 leaders, sales marketing leaders, think that they are doing what they think that they need to be doing. You flip that on their head, and that's, 2/3 are not aligned. 2/3.
Yeah, I mean, and what's driving that? Do you think? I mean, because that's the thing, is we can talk about it, but unless we get to the kind of the bottom of, or understand kind of like what's driving that, then we're not going to be able to sort of fix it, I guess.
No, indeed. So we obviously asked some follow-up questions as part of our survey. So, when we think about, so interestingly, and I have to say, when we were designing this survey, my opinion would be that it would be the sales leaders that would be saying that they were less aligned. But actually, and shows what I know about all this kind of stuff. Really, it was the marketeers that were the grumpiest, the least optimistic about the current situation. And I tell you, I hope you're sitting down for this one, because out of the marketing leaders that we talked to, only 2% of those that we talked to admitted that they thought their team was well aligned with their sales counterparts. And when we then asked them why, and this comes back to that chasm word that you said, brilliant word, why is there such this chasm? They point straight to a mismatch of goal setting and incentivization, which I thought was really interesting, really, really neat. interesting kind of observation to come out of the research.
Yeah, I mean, so that 2%, blimey. I mean, but that feels like, because sometimes I think the way my brain works, I think in terms of analogies that you can use to try and um, explain, or I can explain to myself kind of like what this kind of might look like and feel like, sort of thing. But it feels like that, it just feels like a dysfunctional relationship type thing. It's a bit like, sales and marketing it's like they're in a relationship, they're living together, but they don't talk to each other, they don't hang out, they don't do anything together. They're almost just like cohabitating. They're like sharing a flat.
Yeah,
but like but not talking to each other.
They're not talking. There's no. It's they're living in different floors of the apartment or something, right? One's on ground floor, one's on first floor.
And then you can if you can explore that analogy a little bit further, you go like, well, so what's the bloody point?
Yeah. No,
like,
indeed.
And he's like, they're like, oh, we're doing it. Well, I'm not even going to go there because that's a proper rabbit hole we don't want to go down. But it's like there is that. If we bring it back to the corporate side, you're like, what is the bloody point? So why would you not do that? Why would you not try and lean into it? You talk about this mismatched goal setting and incentivization as a kind of some of the root of this. I mean, kind of add some color to that for us. I mean, like, can bring that to life. I mean, because this is the thing I think we need to shine a spotlight on, because if there's only 2% of marketeers that are saying, "Oh yeah, we're well aligned with our sales kind of people." I mean, this has massive knock-on effects for the rest of the behavior of the organization. And I mean, like, woe on the folks that are in service and support and success and stuff. They've got to catch all the crap that's falling behind them from the kind of sales and marketing being kind of misaligned. I mean, like, heaven forbid. I mean, if we want better outcomes, we need to sort out what goes on up front, I believe.
Indeed. And so if you think about, sales and marketing, goal setting and incentivization, typically, right, you think marketeers, a lot of them, it's all about leads, it's all about MQLs, okay? It's all about cost per clicks and, cost per lead and cost per opportunity, how many people are visiting the website and how many unique visitors they're getting, what's the bounce rate, all that kind of stuff, conversion rates on landing pages, inbound leads versus outbound leads. Some of them may be measured on pipeline and get compensated on pipeline,
right?
And revenue closed as a direct result of marketing activity. But I reckon they're in the minority. Okay,
right.
So, and then when you flip the coin and you're talking about sales, obviously it's about book business, but it's also, they're also thinking about, and we're talking about sales when we're talking about BDRs, we're talking about sales account managers as well, right? So there's a number of calls, there's a number of conversations, there's a number of appointments or demos that you've got. How much cross-sell and upsell opportunities have you got? What's the renewal rate? What's your pipeline looking like for the next, 3-4 quarters? Customer churn. What you can see just from these kind of very simple top of my head bullet list is, we've got two teams playing different games almost.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I think that I think that's absolutely clear. I think what's also kind of clear, or what you should say, is like, we're not saying that kind of like, I think kind of most of the people that are in these sales and marketing sort of teams, I think you're absolutely right that I think that they're playing different games. I think, but they're probably trying to play a good game, but they just don't know they're playing different games. And it's a bit like, I think on the webinar I used that analogy where I said, let's imagine you have a sporting fixture that it goes England versus Scotland. That's a big emotive title. And then actually on the day, and you start selling tickets kind of for it. And on the day of the event, the English football team, or the English rugby team rather, shows up and and then the Scottish football team shows up, and then they're kind of pitted against each other, but playing hockey. And it's just like, well, it's just a bit crazy. Like I think I remember on the webinar, you said you'd probably pay good money to kind of see that because it'd just be funny.
I would definitely pay. I'd definitely pay money to see that. That would be hilarious. But anyway.
But I think the thing is that they're trying to do a good job, and I think that's the kind of thing is that in their own kind of way, it's just that they've almost got this micro, almost like blinkered view of kind of what they're doing because that's the way that the system is set up. But they always need to figure out, I guess, is that the question? Is that the real thing? Is like, do they need to just figure out collectively what game they're playing, or are there other things they need to deal with that lead to this, that are driving this misalignment?
Well, with a lot of things. My wife has a wonderful saying that a fish rots from the head.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think you can take that saying and put it into the situation, and a lot of this stuff comes from the top of organizations. And, we talked a little bit on that webinar. When I say we, I mean you, about purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was Daniel Pink who first started to talk about high performance teams and the importance of mastery, autonomy, and purpose.
Yes.
To really overachieve and to be in the top percentiles.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this kind of stuff has to come from the top. Okay, it has to come from the head, with the fish analogy. Okay, and if it doesn't, and if it's not an intrinsic part of company culture, then there is a real risk of this just not happening and it failing. Okay, so it's internal processes, SLAs and frameworks. I think it comes down to the fact that sales and marketing, as you say, sales and marketing don't talk to each other. They work in silos pretty much. Okay?
Yeah.
But they need to be aligned to overall company strategy goals. They need to have a shared goal and target framework, right? And they need to talk to each other, work together. And the big question is, should we all be measured on the same thing? Sales and marketing, should we be measured on customer satisfaction score? Should be measured on churn rate? Should we be measured on overall customer retention? I don't know.
I mean, maybe we should not be a good thing, because if we were, then maybe that would force a conversation around, well, what does that mean? What does that mean for different people? Because I think we also talked about this idea that you could ask many people, like you could ask people kind of what alignment means. You can ask people in sales what alignment means, and ask people in marketing what alignment means. And actually, you'd probably get, if you ask 10 different people, you'd probably get 10 different answers. And I think maybe that's the point, is that that we make assumptions about what things mean, what it means for each party, and what we need to do to do in order to contribute to the success or the achievement of those stated kind of goals or behaviors and things. And by actually not digging into it and not actually exploring what they mean, then you leave these gaps which get filled by assumptions. And possibly that's where things kind of fall down. And we've seen this play out in other parts of experience. I think the best one that I've seen recently was the idea of like personalization, which is everybody agrees is important, both customers and brands alike want to deliver a more personalized experience to their customers. And everybody thinks it's important. But recent research, particularly from NTT and their 2021 global benchmarking report, showed that customers and companies agree that personalization is important, but the problem is they don't agree on what it means. And I think we see that happening throughout kind of business. And maybe that's the question, is like, do we need to have those collective targets and goals? But because maybe that would force us to to discuss what it means to actually, what those things mean to everybody, and what we need to do collectively and individually in order to achieve them.
Definitely. I mean, if you've got teams working together, and I use the word together in its loosest possible sense, of course, and they have different understandings of what customer first or customer centric actually is, then how are you going to get them working closely together? And until you try and understand what those differences in opinions actually are, and you come to an agreement from the top and from the corporate vision and strategy that, everyone agrees this is what customer first actually means in practice on a day-to-day basis, then people are always going to be heading off in different directions, working to their own drumbeat, doing, and it's not because they're doing it on purpose. It's because, they've got their view and their belief that this is what I should be doing in the best interest of the customer.
Sure.
But then another department are going off in a slightly different direction in their belief that they're doing what's best for the best interests of the customer. But we're not traveling the same channel. We're not traveling the same path, and it's an interesting one. It's a really interesting.
So, what's the? I mean, assume that people kind of that people will do the work or do the work, and to achieve that alignment, even though the statistics say that, or the research suggests that not many people sort of succeed or necessarily do the work, but when they do the work, do you have other research that shows kind of what the payoff is when they get it right?
There are gajillions of stats out there if you want to go down internet rabbit holes that clearly suggest that the business case for strong sales and marketing alignment it is very strong indeed. So I've got some stats here. I love a stat, actually, Adrian. So I'm glad you keep asking me for these stats because I've got them. Don't you worry about that. But, so LinkedIn, right? So LinkedIn did a couple of years ago. They had a look at this, right? And they found that businesses with strong sales and marketing alignment were 67% more effective at closing deals and 58% more effective at retaining customers, and drove 208% more revenue as a result of their marketing efforts.
Blimey.
There's some big numbers there, right? I don't care who you are, but any company that had an opportunity of being 67% more effective at closing deals, there is not one company on this planet that would not go, I'd have some of that. Right? And that is an awfully large number. And then Forrester, last year, they did a little bit of research that suggests that highly aligned companies grow 19% faster than companies that are not aligned and are 15% more profitable. And, we can all agree that business has been through the ringer in the last 18 months. Most of business has been through the ringer. And so, again, if there was an easy way to improve profitability and grow quicker, you've got to be looking at that, right? Seriously, as a business.
Without capital investment, let's say.
There you go, without capital investment, indeed.
It's like going, if you want to get something past your CFO, it's not going to cost us anything but our time.
No, indeed. And so, there are a lot more stats there, but it's some big. As I say, the business case for this stuff is very clear.
Yeah, and so if we circle back and you talk about you're from Sugar CRM and your technology company, and you talk about high definition CX, and then we talked about let the platform do the work, as it were. So I'm pretty sure that, and he also kind of mentioned how helping sales and marketing and service work kind of more effectively and closer together and things. So I'm guessing that you've probably seen a bunch of firms in your portfolio that you work with that are leveraging your tech and getting this kind of right. I mean, if you can if you have, and you can share a couple of examples of what they're doing, and what they're doing, and kind of like how it's benefited them. That sort of bring this whole sort of thing to life, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So, so one of the companies that we work with, a company called Agri-Economy, and it's a really interesting business model that they've got. This is a company that provides the farming community with real-time kind of pricing on equipment, supplies, commodities, fertilizer, feeds, seeds, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And Jeremy Clarkson, if you're listening, you might want to get on it. But with farming, and as I've been working with this company, or trying to help them with some of the PR and some of the building out the custom story that they kindly wrote for us, I got to know a little bit about their industry and a bit about how it all works. And so farmers, obviously, they're buying stock and supplies months. They're placing the order months and months and months in advance of when they actually need it and when they get it. And prices are pretty volatile.
Right.
And so there was, in fact, there was no kind of like real time online kind of marketplace, for want of a better word, where farmers across Europe really can look at prices, put an order in, and all that kind of stuff. So Agri-Economy have come in and have developed this, but they are like, I don't want to call them the Amazon of fertilizers and stuff, but when I was talking to their CMO, he came up with a great line. Okay, and this line has stuck with me. And he said the basis of great online customer experience is customer knowledge. Okay, and if you think about anything that we do as consumers online, Amazon is the perfect example. Okay, they are lauded as having a wonderful customer experience. When you go onto their website, you're provided with lots of things that are relevant to you, or what their algorithm thinks is relevant to you.
Mm-hmm.
And that is about the knowledge that they've gained over time. Well, Agri-Economy are doing a similar kind of thing, but for the farming community. So they are taking as much data and as much information as they can from their customers, pushing it into the Sugar platform, and then using that data to deliver an online personalized experience that is completely customizable, a completely personalized dashboard of prices and supplies and different bits and pieces for that farmer. And it is revolutionized the way farmers buy and stock their farms. And that is all driven by the Sugar technology, which is quite an interesting way of using the technology.
Awesome. That's super cool. And
then another one, if I could be so bold, Adrian, has put in another.
Well, of course, crack on.
If you don't mind. And this was a little bit more traditional. Okay, so the global manufacturer customer of ours, Nina, that's N-E-E-N-A-H. They're a big supplier of packaging. Schools and I think the NHS are a big customer. Medical supplies, education, things like that. So I'm not going to do any of our competitors a disservice here, but they were already a customer of a very, very large CRM provider. But what they were finding that their sales team are one of these sales teams, customer teams that are always going to visit. So they're always out on the road, they're always traveling, they're always spending more time in customer facilities than their own office. But
right.
They were just not using it. Right? They would absolutely, just because it was just too difficult. We talk about let the platform do the work. This is a classic example. The admin burden on the sales team was just too much, and they just weren't getting the return on their significant investment. So what they did is they implemented Sugar Sell and Sugar Market, which is our CRM platform plus our marketing automation platform.
Mm-hmm.
And through all and these are very, it's all in the cloud and it's all kind of mobile apps and all that kind of stuff. But what we're seeing now is that the sales reps and the customer success guys are going into their prospects and customers, and they're updating the CRM on the fly, obviously using the mobile app. But what they're also doing is, because of the integration between the sales and marketing technology, they can actually set up marketing campaigns. So if they know that they want to send, if they've been discussing a new range of whatevers to a customer, they can do it within 2 or 3 clicks. They can set up an automated marketing campaign to send them specific information on that product. Okay, and they can do it from the front seat of their car, right? Just on their mobile device. And then, because it's all super integrated, the marketing team can see what's being sent to the customers and the prospects, even though it's been initiated by the sales team. The sales team can understand what, and they get involved, and they can take a bit more ownership into the CX and the communication aspect of what is going on,
right,
with the customers. And that has, they implemented this over the pandemic, and it is revolutionizing the way that they are able to communicate and provide instant information, instant quotes, instant updates to customers and prospects. And they are an extremely customer.
Awesome.
So just a couple of examples, different ones, about how technology can simplify and enable the delivery of a customer experience in quite different ways. There, I hope that was.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I guess it's all hinged on that sort of thing. It's like everybody's clear on what everybody else is doing and what they're all striving towards.
And that's the key: visibility between departments, knowledge sharing between departments. So you're not got these silos, you're not got these kind of invisible walls between departments. And we're seeing it, and I could go on and on and on, but I don't want to bore your listeners, and I don't want to run out of time. But there are dozens and dozens of customers globally that are enjoying that just by integrating the technology.
Awesome. So, Scott, I mean, let's kind of step back a little bit, because I mean, I know that you've shared a couple of examples, and thank you for that. Sort of great examples of companies that many of our listeners may not have heard about, and that are both in the, one agriculture, another one is in manufacturing, in that B2B sort of space, because B2B doesn't necessarily get the attention that it deserves, and it faces its own sort of unique challenges, which are very different to the consumer sort of business, but also in some ways kind of like similar. We see the consumerization of pretty much lots of different things. But if we take a step back, and because you've been thinking about all of this and seeing all the different trends and everything else, watching and having insight into where the technology is going, so what do you think the future of service and experience kind of looks like, and what do you think some of the big key challenges are ahead that we need to look out for, or we need to kind of overcome?
Whew, that's a question.
Yeah.
That's a question.
Roll up your sleeves.
Yeah. Okay. So I think the pandemic has opened the eyes of a lot of people, and I really think, especially manufacturers, okay, because the traditional manufacturing supply chain has been manufacturers make widgets, they then sell it to wholesalers, retailers, middlemen, who then sell it on to maybe even more middlemen, and it takes two, three, maybe even more steps to get to the end consumer or user. Okay, and with the pandemic, that supply chain completely crumbled because many retail outlets were forced to close, and it was a complete nightmare for many people for dozens of different reasons. But I think, and speaking to a number of manufacturers to get their opinion and just to get their thinking, I think there's a sudden realization that a lot of manufacturers, where possible, need to try and take their supply chain into their own hands and go a little bit more direct to their consumer, whether that's a end consumer or a customer, but a B2B customer. But I think you will see you will see a lot more manufacturers going direct to consumers, and with that happening, they will then have all kinds of customer service, customer experience challenges and questions they have to ask themselves that they perhaps haven't had to ask themselves before.
Yeah.
The whole point, maybe, it could be as simple as building an e-commerce website.
Yes.
and managing post and managing refunds and managing, the email confirmations and bits and pieces. It could be much more complicated. But I think we are already seeing, and I think this trend will continue, a lot more manufacturers going direct, or at least having a hybrid model where they offer an option to buy direct. And I think one of the most interesting markets, as a big petrol head myself, is the car industry.
Right.
And I have no kind of, I don't know if I should say this, but I have no kind of basis of proof of this. But it would not surprise me. It would not surprise me if we see the end of the franchise kind of garage forecourt, the Red Vardens and the Snows of this world. And it wouldn't surprise me if we buy our cars direct from the manufacturer without the middleman. I think another aspect of the whole manufacturing and CX kind of conundrum is the whole concept of servitization, and we see that, and that's manufacturers adding services to their offering. Okay, so instead of just, and we see this in the automotive industry. So you can go in, Adrian, and when you go and buy your next Maserati, you can probably go in there, and you can buy the Maserati, which is the manufactured piece, but you could also buy insurance, and you can also buy a warranty, and you can also buy, scuff guard for your wheels, or paint protection insurance, or whatever it is. Okay, so there's all these added services that you can buy direct from Maserati. Okay, which is adding to their profitability, adding to their product or solution portfolio. And I think we've seen that in the automotive car industry for a while, but I think we'll see other manufacturers trying to do that, because to increase their profitability and increase their offering, their customer experience. Okay, being a one-stop shop for more things, and that again, Maserati then, instead of, obviously they subcontract the insurance through an insurance broker and stuff, but it's their name attached to it. So they need to make sure that customer service is right and is right up there with what you would expect a Maserati insurance policy to be like. So I think there's added pressure and there's added things to think about for manufacturers if they go down that route. But I think servitization, we'll see a lot of manufacturers trying to add services to their offering. And again, I think that will add its own CX complexity.
Yeah, I think that's fair. You talk about particularly the kind of automotive one, and I think there's definitely going to be some changes. Like in most industries, there's going to be changes, but I think the challenge is going to be on for the manufacturers is thinking about what role do they want to play, how far down the value chain and the supply chain do they want to kind of go, what role can the franchise dealerships and their network kind of like provide around service, logistics and delivery and stuff, and all those sort of things, even storage, at local or distributed kind of level, all those different things. So I think there's going to, I don't want to use a word, but there's going to be a lot of, I'm not going to use a word. There will be a lot of,
use a different word.
Ebbing and flowing, and a lot of different big waves that are going to come sort of like, across a lot of different industries, because I think you're absolutely right that there's like, when it's, and there's a lot of change coming for a lot of different industries, particularly in the B2B sort of space, which have been sort of largely protected, I think, from some of this customer consumer demand. There's changes that come on it, but the pandemic has just shone a light on, or really constrained things and forced people to kind of change and to accelerate plans to change. And so I think that the other thing I've seen come out of this is that people go, we achieved what we achieved in 5 months, what would normally have taken us 5 or 6 years to achieve. And I think that pace of change, we've just taken a step up. And I think to assume that it's going to relax and drop down to where it was before is a mistake.
Yeah, indeed.
And I think it's just that we've moved up to a higher level or higher cadence of change, and adoption of new technology and new ways of doing things. And I think we've just got to realize that, one, that's the game that we're in, and also the game that our customers are going to come to expect.
Indeed, and coming back to your point on the car dealerships, it is not beyond the realms of possibility that those kind of third party car dealerships, the likes of Reg Vardy's and Snow's and those kind of organisations, they could be a thing of the past, right? And how much of a sidestep is it? How much of a move is it for the manufacturers to go direct and have those showrooms are manufacturer showrooms, and there is no dealership, third party dealership. You deal directly with the manufacturer when you buy your car, and so. And again, if they do that brings with it a whole raft of extra other customer service and customer relationship challenges and things for a manufacturer that maybe wouldn't have had to think about that in the past. They've got to get their head around a whole new way of doing business, right? Or a whole new arm to their business. So, I think it's not beyond the realms of possibility that becomes a much more common sight on our high street.
Yeah. So we've talked about a lot of stuff, and I quite like the idea that we talked about a lot of B2B stuff as well, and that's cool. But if I was to say to you, that's going to put people a lot to think about. But let's kind of boil it down a little bit, and if you were to say, you're a B2B sales leader, marketing leader, experience leader, service leader, whatever, you're in that sort of B2B sort of space, you're looking to improve the service or experience that you deliver to your customers. I mean, if you were to boil it down to them and say, based on what I'm seeing, based on what I'm hearing, based on what I know, based on my experience, here's the one bit of best advice I would give to you to say, go out and do this. Do it today, do it tomorrow, do it the next day, keep doing it. What would it be?
I would say it's communicate properly, better. I mean, we live in a world where we are surrounded, dominated by a million ways of communicating, whether that's through instant messaging or through mobile apps or through whatever. But I get the feeling that there's a lot of talking and not a lot of listening, and not a lot of proper communication. So I would say, to sales and marketing teams, because there's a lot of knowledge in each team that would be useful for the other team to know. But it's about teasing that information out and actually properly listening, not just doing it, giving lip service, but actually listening and then going away and taking that insight and taking that knowledge and actually making improvements in what you're doing on your day-to-day basis. For example, sales by nature have a lot more interaction with customers and prospects than your average marketing manager does. Okay.
Yeah.
So they can ask questions regarding which pieces of content are resonating, right? They can, and which pieces of content are not resonating, not working. What is the tone right? Is it too detailed or is it not detailed enough? Do you need more technical, producty angles in there, or is it too much product? Do we need to talk about different business challenges or whatever the tone and whatever the angles are? I almost guarantee you that the sales guys will have insight into what's working and what's not. So I would urge marketeers to sit down and ask those kind of pointed questions, but listen, really take sales's opinion and go back and tweak and change your content or update your content and things like that. And you can do that with all kinds of things. Which industries are really suffering with challenges that you can help fix? that I can't say enough that the insight and the knowledge that is in the sales team is gold for a marketeer, especially a marketeer that doesn't get out that often. And we haven't been able to get out because of the pandemic, yada yada. But there's a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge, a lot of insight in the sales team. So I would say get around a table, sit down with them, and ask them questions.
I think that's great advice, Scott. In fact, I would go further. I would kind of encourage people in sales, service, and marketing to actually get together more frequently. Make the time.
Yeah.
Because you'll build the connections, you'll gather insight from all sorts of different. Service will learn from sales will learn from service will learn from kind of marketing will learn from sales, and vice versa, all the way around. It's a virtuous cycle.
Oh, indeed. And also from the marketeer point of view, I'd like to say, don't be afraid of involving sales in the marketing planning process. Right? Again, just as I say, ask them about different industries, ask them about different parts of different events, different things like that. And that, one of the things that we didn't get to earlier on, but some of the other stats that we uncovered when we were talking about a sales and marketing disconnect was that on average, sales are ignoring 50% of the leads that marketing chuck over.
Yeah, I remember that one. That's crazy.
And that is frightening. It's absolutely
wasteful.
It's wasteful on a number of levels. But one way of ensuring that number is not 50%, and this is not a guarantee to get it down to 0%, but it will be a lot less than 50%, is to get them sales involved in the marketing planning process right from the beginning. If they have buy-in and they understand why the marketing plan is being designed the way it is and why we're going to those events, and actually they've recommended some events or they've recommended the industries to go for, and everyone's agreed on what a lead is and everyone's agreed on what the target market personas would be, then you will find, because of that buy-in and because of that sense of involvement and ownership into the marketing plan, that they will be more invested in those leads that come out of that plan. And they will be more inclined to follow up. They'll be more inclined to give you honest feedback, so you can then go back and improve and iterate and just get better. And that's the whole point, right? Getting better on a day-by-day, week-by-week, month-by-month basis.
Absolutely.
You can't do it without getting input. And I speak as a marketeer, sales are our big internal customer, right? So we've got to listen to them.
Yeah. No, I think that's brilliant. It's great. So that's great advice. And so thank you for that, Scott. But so that's sort of all I have for today. But I wanted to finish off by asking you a couple of questions. It's a bit of fun, really. Word association, things that I've been asking for the last nearly kind of 2 years now, I guess, okay. Since I published Punk CX. And it's just a basic ongoing word association collection that I've been doing. So the two questions are, what one or two words rather, would you use to describe a more punk approach to customer experience?
More punk approach to customer experience. I would say, to get it into one or two words, unconventional.
Right.
And unconstrained. Is that a word? Unconstrained? Or is it?
I think so.
Unconstrained? I don't know. But not to be constrained by traditional rules and traditional ways of doing things. There's always a different way, a better way. Sometimes not a better way, but don't necessarily follow the path that everyone else does. You might be able to walk your own path and get better results. That was what I'm trying to say in those two words.
That's fair. That's fair enough. That's great. And I will get them on my list if they haven't already been said. I think unconventional probably is on the list, but I don't know if unconstrained would be. So brilliant. another one to add to the list. So thank you for that. So, and the second question is that what company or brand do you think epitomizes a bit more of a punk approach to customer experience?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't want to say the obvious, so I don't want to say the obvious one. Do you know what? I think maybe a Bitcoin. It's not a brand as such, but Bitcoin and the whole kind of cryptocurrency movement.
Right.
I think that's got a bit of a punk ethos to it.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure it's got much of a CX ethos to it, so maybe that's not the answer you're looking for. So I guess the obvious one is, everyone's going to say it though, I'm sure. Tesla.
Which is what?
Yeah, Tesla.
Tesla. Some people have said it. Not many people have said it though.
Yeah, I feel like I've disappointed everyone by just going with the obvious. So,
well, I think you've been leading up to this. You go like petrol head, but then we've got changes afoot. Kind of like it's Tesla. It's like it's cars. You're in that. You talked about automotive. Yeah, I mean it's an obvious one, but it kind of like I think all roads were leading to this, Scott.
Now you've mentioned it. Now you've said it like that. Then I think you're probably right. It was maybe fate. So
brilliant.
I'm much happier with my answer.
There you go. So thank you for that, Scott. So just want to say thank you for sharing your time and your insight with us today, and kind of your benefit in sharing with us the benefit of your experience. That's been great. And well, good luck sort of continue kind of, I feel like making the platform do the work, delivering the HD kind of CX and smashing down all those kind of walls between sales, marketing and service, because I think it's good work and keep it up. So yeah, thank you for doing that. And thank you for your time today. It's been great.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Adrian. And yeah, thanks again for allowing me to join you on the show. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. So thank you.
Well, that was cool. I hope you enjoyed it. I did, and I always do actually, because I always learn something new when I speak to some of these amazing kind of people. And it's always something new that I can incorporate into my writing, speaking, workshops, and other sort of advisory work that I do. Now, if you're interested in learning about any of that sort of stuff, then you can find out more about how I work with clients over at adrianswisco.com. But one final thing before I go, please consider heading over to iTunes or Spotify or whichever podcast platform you choose to use, and do leave a review. Every little helps, as they say. Anyway, that's all for now. Thank you for listening, and do tune in again soon. All the very best. Cheers. Bye.